The silence that afternoon was heavier than usual, a thick, suffocating blanket that pressed down on the house on my chest, on my very breath. It was a gray, bruised kind of day, the sky mirroring the turmoil inside me, a bruised purple gray that promised nothing but more sorrow. I remember the exact moment the world tilted not with a bang, but with a whimper. A small, desperate, unreturned whimper that echoed in the cavernous emptiness of our once vibrant home. My voice, usually so steady, was a raw, frantic whisper as I called her name first, softly, then with rising panic, my voice echoing in the empty rooms. Luna, Luna. Where are you, sweet girl? Please, Luna. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage beating against the bars, desperate for escape. Every corner of the house, every shadow, every familiar scent screamed her absence. The kitchen, where she usually waited patiently for a treat, her tail a blur of golden happiness. The living room, where she'd curl at my feet, a warm, comforting weight. The garden, her favorite spot for chasing butterflies, her joyous barks filling the air. Empty. All of it. The silence was absolute, a void where her playful yaps and the soft pad of her paws should have been. Then the front door opened, and Ryan walked in. His presence, usually a comfort, a magnetic force that drew me in, was now a cold, unsettling shift in the air, like a sudden drop in temperature. He saw my face pale and streaked with tears, my hair disheveled from frantic searching, and the empty space where Luna should have been bounding. To greet him, her entire body wiggling with delight. His perfect, handsome features, usually so expressive, so effortlessly charming, hardened into a mask of controlled anger, a chilling indifference replacing his usual warmth. He didn't ask what was wrong. He didn't offer comfort. His eyes, usually so warm, so full of the light that had once captivated me, were like chips of ice, reflecting only my own despair. And then the words, delivered with a chilling precision that cut deeper than any blade slicing through the last vestiges of my hope. It was my mother's gift to this house, Olivia, a symbol of our family, and you couldn't even protect it. The accusation hung in the air, thick and suffocating, heavier than the gray sky outside, heavier than the weight of 1,000 unspoken failures. It wasn't just about Luna. It was about everything. Every perceived failing, every quiet struggle, every unspoken criticism that had slowly, insidiously poisoned our marriage. His voice, usually so smooth, so persuasive, so capable of weaving illusions, now carried the undeniable weight of years of unspoken resentment, of carefully cultivated disdain. In that moment, standing in the echoing silence of our once happy home, the scent of fear and betrayal thick in the air, I understood. This wasn't just about a lost dog. This was the end. This was the weapon he had been waiting for, honed to a razor's edge handed to him. I now realize, by the very woman who had orchestrated so much of my quiet suffering, who had meticulously laid the groundwork for my downfall. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow, leaving me breathless, hollowed out. The days that followed were a blur of cold silence and calculated cruelty, a slow, agonizing descent into a private hell. Ryan, ever the master manipulator, the architect of his own perfect narrative, began to construct a story of my instability, my negligence. He spoke to our friends, our mutual acquaintances, with a mournful sigh, his voice dripping with false concern, lamenting my recent struggles, my delusions, my inability to cope. He even went so far as to consult a therapist, a man he knew from his powerful circles, who I would later discover was more than willing to sign off on a fabricated medical history, painting me as emotionally volatile, prone to episodes unfit to manage a household, let alone our future. The stakes were clear, brutally so our children. He wanted full custody, and he was willing to brand me a mad woman, an unfit mother, to get it. The accusations, subtle at first, grew bolder, more direct each word, a fresh wound. My world, once a carefully constructed edifice of domesticity and shared ambition, crumbled around me with terrifying speed. The phone calls stopped. The invitations ceased. Friends, people I had shared laughter and tears with for years, suddenly found themselves too busy. Their voices strained their eyes, avoiding mine, reflecting the judgment Ryan had so skillfully planted. His family, always so outwardly warm, so welcoming, became a united front, their pitying glances cutting deeper than any accusation confirming my status as an outcast. I was alone, adrift in a sea of betrayal, my identity stripped away, my sanity questioned by the very people who should have stood by me. The silence in our large, empty house became a deafening roar, punctuated only by the hollow echo of my own despair, the frantic beat of my own heart. I wandered through the rooms like a ghost, the memories of laughter and shared moments now twisted into instruments of torture. The air felt thick with unspoken accusations. The walls seemed to close in, suffocating me. I barely ate, barely slept, consumed by a gnawing anxiety that left me perpetually on edge, my nerves frayed to breaking point. I am in my early 50s now, the sharp edges of that pain softened, by time rounded by understanding like river stones, smoothed by a constant current. But I can still close my eyes and feel the raw, visceral ache of being 30, a young wife brimming with a naive, boundless enthusiasm for a life I believed was unfolding perfectly, a future shimmering with promise. Ryan was everything a young woman could want, successful in real estate with a smile that could charm the birds from the trees, a laugh that was infectious, and a charisma that filled every room he entered, drawing all eyes to him. Our life from the outside was a glossy magazine spread. The beautiful house in the affluent suburbs, the designer clothes, the effortless social grace, the perfectly curated vacations. I was Olivia, the passionate, devoted wife, utterly convinced I had found my forever, my soulmate, my partner in all things. I poured my entire being into our marriage, into building a home, into supporting his ambitions, believing that his success was our success, his happiness my own. Then Helen arrived, Ryan's mother. She moved in with us after a series of health complications, her frail body belying a will of iron and a mind sharper than any razor, a cunning that was both subtle and devastating. At first, I welcomed her, eager to nurture, to care, to prove myself a worthy daughter-in-law, to integrate seamlessly into their family unit. I cooked her favorite meals, arranged her medications with meticulous care, listened patiently to her endless stories of Ryan's childhood triumphs and her own genteel past. But slowly, imperceptibly, she began to cast a long, chilling shadow over our home, over my marriage. She became the ghost in our marital machine, unseen by Ryan, but ever present in my daily life, a constant, insidious drain on my spirit, From the very beginning, Helen saw me as not enough. Not refined enough, not quiet enough, not from the right family, not possessing the delicate, almost ethereal qualities she seemed to value above all else. She never said it outright, of course. Her methods were far more insidious, a masterclass in subtle manipulation, a slow poison administered with a smile. She'd offer compliments laced with poison like a beautifully wrapped gift, containing a tiny corrosive acid. "That dress is lovely, dear, but it does make you look a little tired." Or, "You're so energetic, Olivia. Ryan's ex-girlfriend Sarah was always so calm, so serene. A true lady, never a hair out of place, always so composed." She'd accidentally leave out old photo albums open to pages featuring a radiant Sarah, her arm linked with a younger, beaming Ryan, their smiles a perfect mocking counterpoint to my own growing unease. The comparisons were relentless, a drip, drip, drip of inadequacy that slowly eroded my confidence, making me question every choice, every word, every natural impulse. The vibrant woman I once was, full of laughter and independent thought, was fading, replaced by a shadow of compliance, a nervous tremor in my voice. I had become an extension of his ambition, a decorative piece in his carefully curated life, and the realization, though slow in coming, was a bitter pill to swallow, leaving a metallic taste in my mouth. The smiles I offered at dinner parties felt brittle, the conversations hollow, and the silence that stretched between Ryan and me in the evenings was filled not with peace, but with an echoing emptiness, a chasm that grew wider with each passing day. She had a knack for calling me at the most inconvenient times, always with a seemingly innocent yet urgent request, delivered with a sigh that implied great suffering. "Olivia, darling, the remote has fallen behind the couch and my show is starting. Could you possibly pop home for just a moment? It's terribly important. You know, my only real pleasure these days." Or, "I seem to have misplaced my reading glasses. I know you're at work, dear, but I simply can't read my book without them. I'm so helpless." These small, seemingly trivial interruptions became a constant source of stress, pulling me away from my burgeoning career, making me feel perpetually behind, perpetually inadequate, perpetually guilty. The unspoken pressure was immense. A good daughter-in-law, a good wife, would always put family first, even if family meant her mother-in-law's misplaced knitting needles or a momentary inconvenience. My own needs, my own aspirations were slowly, systematically pushed aside, deemed secondary to Helen's comfort. Ryan, bless his heart, initially tried to defend me. "Mother Olivia is busy. She has her own responsibilities, her own career." But Helen was a master of the wounded martyr act, a theatrical performance of fragility. A sigh, a slight tremor in her voice, a fleeting look of hurt in her eyes, a hand pressed delicately to her chest, and Ryan would melt, his resolve dissolving like sugar in hot tea. "I just worry about her, dear. She seems so stressed, so overwhelmed. Perhaps if she just focused a little more on the home, on us, on the family, she wouldn't be so agitated." Over the years, her subtle whispers, her constant insidious suggestions, began to chip away at Ryan's loyalty, at his perception of me. He started to see me through her eyes, less capable, more emotional, a little less than perfect, a little too demanding. The man who once championed me slowly, heartbreakingly, began to change, his defenses against her eroding, replaced by a growing impatience with my sensitivities, my overreactions. Our arguments became more frequent, more bitter, fueled by the invisible hand of Helen's influence. Then came Luna, Helen's gift to Ryan, a tiny, fluffy golden retriever, puppy, all boundless energy and innocent adoration, a living, breathing symbol of her triumph, a symbol of our family. And she'd coo, holding the wriggling bundle out to him, her eyes pointedly avoiding mine, a triumphant glint in their depths. Luna was beautiful, a creature of pure joy, a golden ray of sunshine in a home that was slowly becoming a battleground. From the moment she bounded into our lives, she became my shadow, my confidant, the one pure, uncomplicated source of love, in a home that was slowly becoming a battleground. I was the one who woke up for her midnight potty breaks, who trained her with endless patience, who walked her in the pouring rain, who nursed her through her puppy illnesses, who cleaned up her messes without complaint. She was my constant furry companion, a warm presence against the growing chill in my marriage, a soft, beating heart that mirrored my own. She was the one living thing in that house that loved me unconditionally, without judgment, without expectation, without a hidden agenda. Her soft fur against my cheek, her happy yips when I came home, her comforting weight beside me on the couch during lonely evenings. These were the small anchors that kept me from drifting completely into despair, from succumbing to the insidious darkness that Helen had woven around me. Luna was my solace, my silent witness, my last pure connection to joy. The day Luna vanished was a Tuesday, too. Always Tuesdays, it seemed, when the world decided to unravel, when fate delivered its cruelest blows. It was a gray, bruised afternoon, the kind of day that feels heavy with unspoken premonition, the air thick with a sense of impending doom. I had let her out into the backyard as I always did, for her afternoon romp, her joyous barks echoing for a moment, before fading into the quiet hum of the neighborhood. I turned away for a moment, just a moment, to answer a ringing phone. Helen, of course, needing to know if I'd remembered to pick up her special blend of herbal tea, her voice thin and demanding. When I returned, the back gate, usually latched securely, was ajar, swinging slightly in the gentle breeze. And Luna was gone. Panic, cold and sharp, seized me, gripping my throat, stealing my breath. I called her name, my voice raw, frantic, a desperate plea echoing in the empty space. I scoured the neighborhood, my heart pounding a frantic rhythm against my ribs, tears blurring my vision, turning the familiar streets into a watery, distorted nightmare. Hours turned into a desperate, agonizing search, each passing minute a fresh stab of fear. I put up flyers, my hands trembling as I taped them to lampposts, called the shelters. My voice breaking with each inquiry, walked every street, every alley, until my feet ached and my throat was raw. But Luna was gone. And then the chilling discovery. The security camera at the back corner of our yard, the one that covered the gate, was inexplicably, conveniently broken. A wire frayed a lens, smudged beyond recognition, a deliberate act of sabotage. It felt too perfect, too convenient to be an accident. But in my grief, in my desperate hope, I pushed the thought away, desperate to believe it was just a terrible coincidence, a cruel twist of fate. The loss of Luna became a spiritual crisis, a gaping wound in my soul that refused to heal. It wasn't just losing a pet. It was losing a piece of my heart, a symbol of the innocent love I still clung to, the last bastion of uncomplicated joy in my life. And then the final crushing blow. Ryan, his face devoid of empathy, his eyes cold and cutting, his voice a weapon, delivered the verdict that would echo in my mind for years. It was my mother's gift to this house, Olivia, a symbol of our family, of our legacy. And you couldn't even protect it. You couldn't even keep one simple thing safe. His words were a hammer blow, shattering the last fragments of my self-worth, leaving me exposed and vulnerable. He wasn't just blaming me. He was condemning me, using Luna's disappearance as the ultimate proof of my inadequacy, my carelessness, my unworthiness, a convenient justification for his own escalating cruelty. It was the perfect excuse, the perfect, cruel, calculated pretext. The discussions about divorce began almost immediately, initiated by Helen with a triumphant gleam in her eye, then echoed by Ryan with a chilling lack of emotion, as if reading from a script. He had been having an affair, I soon discovered, with a younger woman, a quiet, demure blonde, whom Helen had accidentally introduced him to months ago, a woman named Clara. A woman who I later learned was everything Helen believed I wasn't: compliant, soft-spoken, utterly devoted to Ryan's every whim, a blank canvas upon which Helen could paint her ideal daughter-in-law. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. Luna's disappearance, the broken camera, Ryan's sudden coldness, the escalating pressure for divorce. It was all part of a meticulously orchestrated plan, a grand manipulation designed to push me out, to replace me with someone more suitable, someone more easily controlled. The realization was a bitter, painful truth, but it also brought a strange, liberating clarity. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't imagining things. I was simply a pawn in a game I hadn't even known I was playing, a game rigged against me from the start. The anger, sharp and cold, began to replace the despair, a slow, burning ember of defiance. The day of the divorce hearing dawned crisp and cold, a stark contrast to the emotional inferno raging within me. My lawyer, a stern but kind woman named Ms. Davies, had advised me to dress conservatively, to appear composed, to project an image of calm strength, even if I felt none. I had chosen a simple gray suit, its fabric feeling heavy and suffocating. My face scrubbed clean of makeup, my hair pulled back tightly, in a severe bun. I wanted to be invisible, to simply get through the day, to sever the ties that had become a noose around my neck, choking the life out of me. The courthouse was a grand, imposing building, all cold marble and hushed whispers, its towering columns seeming to mock my smallness. As my taxi idled at a red light a few blocks away, waiting for the light to change, the city sounds, a muffled roar outside. I stared out the window, my gaze unfocused, lost in the swirling vortex of my thoughts, replaying every cruel word, every subtle manipulation. And then I saw him. An old man stooped with age his hand, gripping a worn leather leash, and at the end of that leash, trotting happily beside him, her golden fur gleaming even in the muted light, was Luna. My breath hitched. My heart stopped, then hammered to life with a jolt that sent a tremor through my entire body, a shockwave of disbelief and hope. It couldn't be. It was impossible. But there she was, undeniably Luna. A little plumper, her fur a shade brighter, her steps a little more confident, but the distinctive white patch on her chest, the way her tail curled at the tip, the slight tilt of her head when she sniffed the air, the joyful bounce in her step. It was her. My Luna. My sweet lost Luna. "Stop the car!" I gasped my voice, a strangled cry, a desperate plea that ripped through the quiet of the taxi. The taxi driver, startled, slammed on the brakes, throwing me forward. I fumbled with the door handle, my hands shaking so violently I could barely grasp the cold metal, and stumbled out onto the sidewalk, oblivious to the blaring horns and angry shouts from frustrated drivers. "Luna!" I cried, my voice cracking, tears springing to my eyes, hot and fast. The old man looked up, startled, his eyes wide with surprise. Luna, hearing her name, paused, her ears swiveling, her head cocked in that familiar, endearing way. She looked at me, her golden eyes widening in recognition, and then, with a joyous bark that ripped through the urban din, a sound I thought I'd never hear again, she bounded towards me, her tail wagging furiously, her whole body wiggling with unrestrained delight. She jumped up, her paws on my chest, almost knocking me over, licking my face with an unrestrained affection that brought fresh tears to my eyes, tears of pure, unadulterated relief and joy. It was her. It was really her. A miracle. The old man, a kind-faced gentleman with gentle eyes and a neatly trimmed white beard, approached cautiously, a worried frown on his brow. "She knows you," he said, a note of surprise and bewilderment in his voice. I explained haltingly through my tears and the overwhelming surge of emotion who I was, who Luna was, how she had vanished. He listened patiently, his expression softening, then told me his story. He lived a few blocks away, a lonely widower named Mr. Henderson, who took long walks every afternoon, a solitary figure in a bustling city. That gray day months ago he had found Luna wandering near the park, disoriented, and whimpering, clearly lost and frightened. She had no collar, no tags, no identifying marks. He had taken her in, nursed her, loved her, given her a new home, a new life. She had filled the void in his quiet life, a furry companion in his profound solitude, a reason to get up each morning. He had searched for an owner, he insisted placing notices in local shops, but had found no flyers, no missing dog reports, nothing to indicate she was being searched for. The pieces of Ryan and Helen's cruel game clicked into place with a horrifying, yet undeniable clarity. Luna hadn't run away. She had been taken. Deliberately abandoned perhaps a few blocks away, left to wander until someone found her, or until she succumbed to the dangers of the city. It was all part of their plan, a calculated act of cruelty designed to break me, to drive me to the brink. The anger, cold and righteous, simmered beneath my skin, a slow, burning fire that threatened to consume me. They had not only betrayed me, gaslighted me, tried to steal my children, but they had also used Luna, the one innocent creature in my life, the one source of pure, unconditional love, as a pawn in their cruel game. I could expose them. I could bring Luna to court, a living, breathing testament to their deceit, to their heartlessness. I could use her as leverage, demand justice, demand everything they had tried to take from me, every penny, every shred of dignity. The thought was intoxicating, a sweet, vengeful fantasy that promised a fleeting moment of triumph. I could see Ryan's shocked face, Helen's furious glare, their carefully constructed facade crumbling before my eyes. But then I looked at Luna, her happy, panting face, as she nudged my hand, her tail wagging so hard, her whole body wiggled, her golden eyes shining with uncomplicated love and joy. And I looked at the old man, Mr. Henderson, his face etched with a profound, gentle sadness at the thought of losing her, his hand gently stroking her head. He had loved her, truly loved her, given her a home, a family, a purpose, a reason to live. He was a lonely soul, and Luna was his anchor, his light, just as she had been mine. The thought of ripping her away from him, of using her as a weapon in my battle, of causing him the same pain I had endured, felt wrong. It felt like perpetuating the very cruelty I had endured, becoming the very thing I despised. It would be a hollow victory tainted by the pain of another. I stood there on the bustling city street, the sounds of traffic and distant sirens fading into a dull hum, the world narrowing to this one profound moment, faced with a choice that would define the rest of my life. I could fight for Luna, for what was right, for a symbolic victory against Ryan and Helen, a moment of public vindication. Or I could choose a different path. I could choose peace. I could choose to break the cycle of pain, to let go of the need for revenge, to allow love to exist in its purest form, even if it wasn't with me. I could choose my own freedom, my own healing, over a fleeting moment of triumph. The decision when it came was not easy, the hardest I had ever made, but it was clear, crystalline in its certainty. It was a choice born not of desperation, not of anger, but of a newfound clarity, a profound understanding of what truly mattered. I knelt down, buried my face in Luna's soft fur, inhaling her familiar scent, the scent of unconditional love, of pure, unadulterated joy. "Be happy, sweet girl," I whispered, tears streaming down my face, mingling with her soft fur. "Be happy. I love you, Luna. Always." I stood up, looked at the old man, Mr. Henderson, and offered him a small, genuine smile, a smile that finally reached my eyes. "She's yours," I said, my voice surprisingly steady, though my heart ached with a familiar pang. "Take good care of her. She's a very special dog. You've given her a wonderful home." He looked at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of surprise and profound gratitude, and I knew in that moment that I had made the right choice. I had chosen love, not revenge. I had chosen peace, not prolonged conflict. I had chosen myself, my future, my healing. I walked away from Luna, from the old man, and towards the courthouse, my steps lighter than they had been in years, a sense of profound liberation washing over me. I walked away from Ryan, from Helen, from the toxic marriage that had almost consumed me, leaving behind the bitterness and the pain. I walked into that courtroom not as a victim, not as a broken woman, but as a woman who had found her strength in the act of letting go, who had chosen her own path. The divorce was finalized swift, and clinical, a mere formality. I didn't fight for anything, not the house, not the money, not the material possessions. All I fought for, all I truly wanted, was my freedom, my peace, my future. I sold the house, the beautiful cage filled with so many bitter memories, its walls echoing with Helen's criticisms and Ryan's cold accusations. I packed only what truly mattered: my clothes, a few cherished books, some old photographs that still held warmth, and moved to a new city, a place where no one knew my past, where I could simply be Olivia, unburdened by expectations or history. The early days were quiet, filled with a profound sense of emptiness that was slowly, gradually replaced by a quiet peace, a gentle hum of contentment. I found a small apartment with a sun-drenched balcony overlooking a vibrant park, started taking art classes. Rediscovering a passion I had long suppressed, volunteered at a local animal shelter, finding solace in the unconditional love of creatures who asked for nothing but kindness. I rebuilt my life brick by painstaking brick, not around a man or a societal expectation, but around myself, around my own needs, my own desires, my own definition of happiness. I learned to enjoy my own company, to find joy in simple things: a quiet cup of tea in the morning sun, a walk in the park, the laughter of children playing. I learned to trust my own instincts again, to listen to my inner voice, to validate my own feelings. The woman who emerged was happier, lighter, more serene than I had ever been, truly at peace, truly free. Sometimes even now I still think of Luna, and a pang of bittersweet longing echoes in my heart, a gentle ache that reminds me of a love lost, but also of a profound lesson learned. But it's not a pain that consumes me. It's a gentle reminder of a profound lesson. Sometimes the greatest act of love is not holding on, but knowing when to let go. True strength. I've learned lies not in clinging to what was, to the illusions of the past, but in embracing the freedom of what can be and forging a new path, unburdened by resentment. It is in releasing the fear of being alone, of facing the unknown, and in learning to love yourself with a steady, unwavering reason, a love that is both fierce and gentle. Thank you for listening to my story, my dear friends. I know many of you watching, especially my fellow grandmas, have walked similar paths, faced similar challenges, and found your own ways to heal. What does letting go mean to you in your own life? How have you found clarity and peace in moments of profound change? Share your stories in the comments below. Let's reflect together on the journeys we've taken and the strength we've found within ourselves. You can find more reflections on grandmas,